Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business. I'm looking forward to talking with Lori Kitchen-Buschel and Kat Nelson, both with First Step. Lori is the executive director of First Step, and Kat is a First Step volunteer. I really want to thank both of you for taking time to be on the show today. You know, how I got connected and met Kat, actually, this is the first time we're meeting. But got introduced to Kat was through 100 Businesses Who Care. It's an organization that I'm part of where twice a year, 100 people bring $500 and hold on, sorry. Oh, hold on one second. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So there was just like a mistake or something. Anyway, blah, blah, technical error. So a bunch of people kind of get together and 3 people pitch a nonprofit. And Kat pitched First Step. And everybody was just blown away. And it was so amazing. And so to just talk a little bit about First Step is the only nonprofit agency in Wayne County providing comprehensive services for victims of domestic and sexual violence. The mission of First Step is to eliminate both domestic and sexual violence and provide comprehensive services to individuals and families impacted by these crimes. And so I know I'm reading it verbatim, but I didn't want anything lost in translation. And since 1978, First Step has been working for peaceful families and safe communities in Wayne County, Michigan. Your purpose and your mission is so beautiful, what you do. Hey, Amy. And so I was just sharing how I met Kat at 100 Businesses Who Care. And so what happens is 100 people come with $500, 3 people pitch their organization, everybody votes. This happens within about an hour and a half. And then the winner gets to be able to call the nonprofit and say, you just won $50,000 for your cause. It's an amazing, amazing nonprofit organization that Amy, who's been on the show a couple of times talking about it, brought. And Kat, you know, you talked about First Step and the impact that it had in your world. You are a survivor of sexual assault. I think I can speak for everybody who was part of that event that we did virtually. Everybody was moved to tears. You spoke with such courage. You were so brave to share your story. You know, what did it feel like to actually be able to, you know, call Lori and say, hey, Lori, I just shared my story and I'm able now to give you a check for $50,000?
You know, to call First Step, it was like, it was such an empowering moment for me, not only because of the trauma I went through, but to be able to help others that need it and to be able to give it to an organization like First Step that I know is going to help those who don't have a voice. And I called Teresa and Lori and I was just like, hey, what are you guys doing? Are you sitting? And I was on the floor in tears. I was so happy for them, so grateful for 100 Businesses. And, you know, I'm still like overjoyed by it. It like made my entire decade. Like, this is fantastic.
Well, I was so happy to be part of that event, and it was a couple months ago now, but I want to talk about the nonprofit, your organization, First Step, and really what you do and who you help. And, you know, we could point to a lot of studies, but, you know, this past year of COVID, you know, studies are showing a rise in, you know, domestic violence and sexual violence and things of that nature. And so for those who are listening, or for those who know somebody who's in trouble and doesn't have a voice, like share what they can do. What's, you know, what can they do? Who can they call? You know, just Lori, why don't you kind of give an overview a little bit? Yeah.
Sure. So first, I just want to say, again, like this opportunity was so impactful for us this year. You know, with COVID, the needs for domestic violence and sexual assault survivors have significantly increased. The intensity of violence that we're seeing has increased, and the needs are more complicated with virtual schooling and access to technology. And court has gone virtual, and the PPO, which is the personal protection order process, has gone virtual. And so this could not have come at a better time or a more important time. You know, it was a miracle, and we're so grateful for Kat to have the passion for us that she does, to tell her story the way that she does, and to support us the way that she has in so many ways. So again, thank you so much for that. So like I said, we are the comprehensive service provider for Wayne County. We have been doing this work for over 43 years. And so basically we interact with survivors in many different ways. First and foremost, we follow an empowerment-based model. What that means is we don't tell the survivor what is best for them. They tell us what they need. They help identify their barriers, whether, you know, it has to do with, you know, childcare, whether it has to do with their cultural background or their religious background. We do not say this is what you should do. We say, here are your options, what's in your way, and how do we help you through it? So most survivors come to us two ways. One, through our crisis hotline. We run the crisis hotline for the county. It's 24/7. There's always somebody there to answer it. And then also is often through engagements with law enforcement and the court system. So we provide legal advocacy, which means we support survivors in navigating the legal elements of their cases and whether they choose to go forward or not. We also provide referrals to actual attorneys. We provide a specific children's program that does counseling and advocacy for children who've been infected by domestic violence and sexual assault. We provide ongoing counseling and advocacy services for anybody who identifies as being affected by sexual assault and domestic violence. We also run a 24-hour emergency shelter, which also includes an animal shelter, so that when families are fleeing violence, they do not have to leave their animals at home, which can put them at risk. And it also can be extra trauma to for anybody who is an animal lover. You know that it would be hard to leave behind your animal, and that can be a barrier to leaving. And then we also have a transitional housing program where we provide 2 years of rent while providing comprehensive services to survivors to help them get on their feet and stable for those who are in need of support in that way. So, like I said, we meet anyone. We serve anybody who identifies as a survivor, regardless of gender, regardless of religion, regardless of, you know, cultural background, socioeconomic status. And we have seen survivors that identify across the spectrum of needs. And we serve over 7,000 survivors in Wayne County and the surrounding area every year. And we have served over 35,000 in our 43-year history.
Wow. You know, this is that's a staggering number, you know, and because you're just talking about Wayne County, right? And so you're talking about 7,000 people, 7,000 people this year alone, and you're talking about in the last 12 months.
Yes.
Right. You know, I mean, that is, I just want to kind of like, you know, that's 19, almost 20 people a day. I just want to be, I mean, that's a very, very high number. So first of all, let me just thank you for the work that you do. It's beautiful work, but I want to talk a little bit about, you know, what I think everybody was so connected to. One of the many things people were so connected to about Kat was just how brave she was. And I feel like for the 7,000 that came to in the last year, the 20 a day, I can't imagine the number of the people who are scared to move or who don't have a voice. And so I think we're talking to those people right now, right? Yeah. How can we reach those people? And Kat, maybe this is a question for you. Where do you find the strength to say, you know, I'm a survivor, I need help, and then how do you do that, and how do you move without fear? I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there's fear, but how do you just move at that point to get help?
I guess for me, the biggest step was, you know, in the speech, I just kind of hit on it where I had a moment where I looked at myself in the mirror and I just came home from being assaulted and looking at myself, I just knew that I wasn't the woman who I thought I was anymore. The shell of me was gone. I just completely, the light inside was gone. And on the other side of the door were my parents. They were just watching TV. They're laughing, joking, and just having a good time. And inside them, in my own world, they had no idea about. And I think in that moment, I looked at myself and I said, no more. This isn't me. This is who I don't want to be this. And I know that the people on the other side of the door will listen. And so when I opened up that door, it was a defining moment in my life that, I want to encourage others that, my story is not alone. I'm not the only person. 1 in 4 women are assaulted, 1 in 7 men are assaulted. And, your voice needs to be heard. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something that will scar you for the rest of your life. It's something that can empower you. And, I took that moment and I said, you know what, I was writing my speech and I said, you know what, that was the moment when I wanted to change my life. And that person who did those terrible things to me isn't going to be the person to mark my life. I can do what I want to do in my life. And those who still aren't sure about themselves, if you want to speak up, it's okay to take little steps and look at yourself in the mirror and go, I'm strong. They did not define me. They don't define me. I define me. And give yourself some grace.
Yeah. I love that you talk about give yourself some grace. And Lori, maybe you can expand on some of the stuff Kat's talking about, as far as how people take that first step. No pun intended, I guess. Well, maybe there is, but how people take that first step to pick up the phone and call when there is fear, shame. I mean, there's so much attached to it. So, kind of share the process a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said before, we follow an empowerment-based model, which means when you call, we're not going to tell you need to pack and leave right now. We're not going to tell you what the next step is for you. We're going to give you options and understand your specific need. So if that means that we're just working on a safety plan over the phone, then that's where we start. If that means we get you connected with an advocate to talk about next steps, that's where we start. Not everybody goes from the phone call into emergency shelter. Some people with a little bit of support can find ways to engage in resources that allows them to be safe with family and friends first, and then move through the other systems that they need to protect themselves and their children. Leaving a home that is full of violence can be overwhelming. And in the dynamics of violence, is so much power control, which means they've lost control over their finances. They've lost control over relationships outside of their home with their family. So we can help assist in bridging those gaps and creating safety and structure around them so it is safe for them to leave when they're ready. And then for sexual assault, sexual assault also comes with a lot of trauma. So somebody may be in a safe place, but they're calling in crisis. And they're calling because they're processing their trauma. So we, serve them where they are. What do they need? They may not need a place to go, but they need an advocate who understands what they're going through and supportive resources to identify and heal. And so we meet them where they are. We do not tell them this is what you must do, step 1, step 2, step 3. We safety plan with where they are, what do they need, and what is that first step for them.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I want to give Amy Whipple a quick voice, because I know, Amy, I got connected through all of this through you. In 100 Businesses That Care is such an amazing, I've been to many where, this one was pretty special. Talk a little bit about, just the business, the business of 100 Businesses Who Care, and why, and just, and how, what you set off to do so many years ago, here we are today able to give $50,000 to First Step, right? And so I think that's just an important message. I think I don't want to, I don't want to go the whole podcast without giving you a voice. So.
Well, no, thank you, John. I mean, quite honestly, I'd much prefer just to hear Lori and Kat. I mean, everything their passion, their courage, the journeys that they've been on, the beautiful journeys that are ahead. I mean, those are the most special things to be talking about. But with 100 Businesses Who Care, I mean, it's been one of the most rewarding things in my life to be able to bring together business owners and leaders and executives to learn about, people and other circumstances, like Cats and organizations like First Step. The educational component, I think, is huge because so often we live in our own little worlds and we hear about things, but we don't have the face to it. We don't hear the personal story. And Kat gave us that through her courage. And, it's just, my little piece is just bringing together the people to actually fund the important work of organizations like First Step, and really kind of getting people who stepping outside of their comfort zones to research an organization, to learn, to listen, where it might not be something easy to listen about, right? I mean, we don't want to see the pain that Kat experienced, but it's real. She's come through the other side, and now we have kind of that vested ability to say, like, we're helping women like Kat or people like Kat through First Step, and we're kind of owning and having that responsibility.
Yeah, I love what you talk about, Amy, because the organization, none of the stories are easy to listen to. They are all heartbreaking in their own way, because the people who share the stories have a very deep connection to the nonprofits. And so I think everybody at every 100 Businesses I Care, everyone's leaving emotional. Everyone has cried at some point throughout some of all the talks. But I think the not easy to listen to is important, because this is a very tough topic, and I don't think it gets talked about enough.
Right.
And so here's my question: if you know someone who's going through this, what does that person do with their voice? If you know somebody who's doing nothing because they're scared, because they don't have the courage, how does someone from the outside give a voice to somebody that they see going through something like this?
So I would say, first and foremost, always believe them. Don't question them. Don't place blame. Do not tell them that they've made mistakes or this is what they should do. The amount of barriers on top of somebody in these situations can be significant. And so what might work for you, you don't know what they're walking through exactly. So believe them. Be a safe place for them. Always let them know that you're there to listen. You can also share resources and let them know, that they can call our hotline, or in a different county, we have sister agencies that are serving as well, and they have 24-hour hotlines. So be prepared to support them. Be a safe place that they can go to and help them if they need a safe way to make a phone call or a safe way to get somewhere. You always have to consider your safety in the matter, but typically assailants are very fixated on the person that they're controlling. So always believe them. Always help support them with resources. Do not blame, do not judge, and always be there, because you don't know when they're going to be ready. And if you aren't believing them at that moment, then they could completely lose, their strength to go forward.
Yeah, I love it. Kat, any thoughts?
From being on the other side, it only takes one person to listen to you. If you have a friend who's struggling, you see the signs that they're going through abuse. I mean, too often now, because everybody's still kind of at home, they're invisible victims now, and just having a FaceTime call and you notice something on your friend, just listen to them. Say, hey, do you have a moment? I just want to talk about, something that's going on with me, and let's talk in private, and see if you can get them away from their significant other, their abuser. See if you can get them on a walk and just listen, ask them questions. Where you said, don't judge them, because, women, there's so much shame and there's so much on us that it's our fault. We're the ones who did this, when really it's the abuser. It's nothing to do with us. And to have that realization that somebody believes you and is listening to you, it will totally change the world around them, and go, you know what, I can do this. They're right. I don't deserve this. And they can take that first step forward to getting better and getting help and getting their children out of the situation, whatever it may be. So just be there, listen, and check in with your friends. The ones that are most quiet are usually the ones who need the most help. And you never know if you're going to leave a lasting impact on somebody.
Yeah. What are some of those signs that people should be paying attention to? I think it's so common, and because people are so busy and hectic, and there are so many distractions, right? It's like, it's normal today for me to be doing a podcast from my office in my house, which is also the computer room, the piano room. My dogs will be barking in a few minutes. My kids are at school, otherwise they may be fighting. You know what I mean? It's like distraction is normal for people now, right? So what are some things? So it's easy to ignore distractions today. And so what are some things that we should be raising our awareness on, raising our frequency, our vibration on, to pay a little bit closer attention, to be a friend who needs to help somebody?
So one is isolation. So someone who was frequently, a big communicator or available, assailants will often isolate. Two is when you start to pick up on signs that they have a little bit of a lack of control, or they're losing control over things they used to have control over. Three can be just their well-being, their mentality, how they present themselves. Now, that's not always the case. Survivors are very good at protecting and covering up what is happening, because it's hard for them to, accept it themselves, in some ways. And it takes a little bit to realize this is real. This is really happening. And it happens slowly. It doesn't usually happen with violence. It happens with other, ways of doing things. So it happens with taking control of finances. It happens with isolation from their friends. I can't speak for all people, but we as women often can pick up when our friends have changed their energy and their moods, and trust that. Always trust your gut on that. But believe them too when they say, no, everything's fine, because you need to continue to be a safe place where they know that they will be believed, no matter what their truth is in that moment, because their truth may change. But isolation and changes in behavior, and changes in areas where they used to have control, those are red flags.
All right. Good. Well, I can't thank you both, and all of you. But Lori and Kat, for what you do with First Step. Amy, of course, the nonprofit that you started, 100 Businesses Who Care, has been so huge and an integral part in my level of awareness of this organization. And I love giving a platform to organizations like yourself that I've never even heard of, that need more of I want to do my part in giving you the voice in the way that I can. As we kind of wrap up, what is the person who's listening to this, or the person who hasn't made a move, or the person who knows somebody who needs to listen to this, and maybe this is the first step, listening to this podcast. If somebody is listening to this, what is the first thing that they can do, that even if they're not ready to maybe even pick up the phone yet, what is the first thing that they can do to just get their mindset in the right space?
I would say there's plenty of different survivor stories out there. So perhaps, do a YouTube search or Google so you can see the light at the end of the tunnel and that people survive this and get through this, and that can help motivate you. The second is just check out our website for resources. There are power and control wheels on there, which will help identify if you might be experiencing any of this and it hasn't gotten violent yet. And so, please make sure you also have our helpline available to you for when and if you are ready and you do want to make a call. And do know that that call does not mean you're leaving your life in that moment. That call means that you are helping to create a safety plan or just get resources so that you can navigate what you need to feel safer. Yeah. So those would be my top three, is know that there are tons of survivor stories out there. You are not alone. People have walked this walk and they have survived, and that is why they are survivors.
Thank you for that. Kat, any thoughts?
I just want to say, we believe you. We're here for you, and you're not alone. And, you can get through this. You don't deserve the abuse you're going through, and things will get better. This is just a fraction of the time. And you have a whole new life after it, and you will inspire and you will grow, and you just have to take that first step to getting better. And
I love it.
That's why they're there.
I love it. I love everything you're saying. Amy, any last thoughts?
Just like the name of our organization, 100 Businesses Who Care, people care, and they want to lend a hand. They want to lend resources. They want to lend a listening ear. So if there are people out there that need help, there are people out there that care, and 100 Businesses Who Care, has brought together some of those people.
I love it. For those who need it, the website is firststep-mi.org. The 24-hour helpline is 734-722-6800. I'll say that again, firststep-mi.org. 24-hour helpline, 734-722-6800. First Step, Lori and Kat, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing your stories in our only brief time together, but I really appreciate the strength and the courage and the service that you provide, whether it's in business or in life. I think one of the hardest things is to ask for help, and you make asking for help very easy. So I hope this helps just one person, and I thank you all. Amy, thank you so much for 100 Businesses Who Care and getting me, connected with this group and all of the members of 100 Businesses Who Care. Again, 734-722-6800. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Thanks, the community.
Thank you.